Hello, once again. Welcome to yet another edition of Top 10 Worst of Lists. Premier source of Top 10 Worst of Lists in the entirety of creation. The tops and worsts. I'm your host for this evening's adventure, Chris Coe, and I'm learning to see people for who they really are and listen. That's my mission in life. But for now, leave us to embark upon an odyssey. A great revealing of hidden features within life that once observed can unlock doors and provide pathways to success and riches beyond your wildest imagination. And no, I'm not talking about luxury items and conspicuous opulence. I'm talking about riches of the soul, depth of character, the ability to be able to give of yourself without expecting anything in return. These are the things that make life precious, that make us indispensable, both to ourselves and those around us, worth caring for. Can't you see it? Can't you come on this journey with me to debunk the lies? Oh my God. You've happened upon this episode at such a fortuitous juncture, because today's list is such a brilliant philosophical work of art. I can't goddamn contain myself. And today's top 10 worst, this is top 10 worst things that aren't pizza. Okay. I know that you're going to be fulfilled in ways that you've never been fulfilled before. And I guarantee it, or twice your money back. What's going on over by you? What are you up to there? Woo, woo. Idle hands find the genitals, huh? All right, so before we embark upon this rock and roll fantasy, allow me to elucidate a couple of disclaimers in order to be able to indulge in a more free and open manner without the restrictions brought on by insecurity and wishful thinking. Number one, I'm an oddball. Okay, I'll admit it. I have set a record as the verified by the people at the Guinness Book of Records. Not really, I don't know who they are or how to contact them. The Guinness Book of Records people are like, they're practically blowing up my voicemail in an attempt to verify that I am now the number 2 ranking in all of history on the dateless wonder scale. People are banging down my door, trying to, make pitch woo with your old pal Chris. It's like nobody's business around here. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, there's another text. Some hot mega babe who's looking to tear off a piece But seriously, I'm an oddball. As such, I can't be trusted. Who knows what I'll say? I will say things. Guaranteed. Over the course of the next whatever it's going to be. As legally restricted, yet all encompassing, defined parameters of this, what's commonly referred to as an episode. I've had plenty of episodes in my time. This is a different form of episode, however. I've been trying to start a bloodless revolution for 30 years. It's taking my swings of bat, shadowboxing demons, unseen and otherwise, doing all I can to have a bloodless revolution. Who's said it? Who's there? Based on empowering what's good in people. Because I honestly believe that, things are bad. We're bad. It's awful out there. And I think it doesn't have to be like this. Don't tell anyone. But I figured it all out. I did. And I did for 30 years. I tried to build up enough steam to be able to provide alternate ways to distribute the thoughts, ideas, and creations of those who weren't plugged into the corporate ethos. Excuse me. But I failed. I was destroyed primarily by people who, at least on paper, should have been allies to what I was embarked upon. The quest. But they were all compromised by moneyed interests. Anywho, so if I'm saying things that you just, find to be questionable, here's a thought. Why not just go look it up, man? There's stuff out there still. You can find out things for yourself. Is that much of a burden on you? And your poor life of watching 5 hours of TV a day on average, is it too much of an imposition for you to go look up a couple of frickin' things for yourself, you lousy piece of work? Number two, I'm not partisan. I'm sorry. I've turned in all my partisan cards. I'm not playing either side of the aisle against each other in an effort to try to keep people from attacking the true purveyors of their suffering. It's not right versus left. It never was. It's always been haves versus have-nots. And they got you dead to rights. Basically, it's been like the same sort of families in charge of civilization since civilization was started thousands of years ago, right? And the same people that got, in the Bible, who got people to swallow the golden calf as being a, viable explanation of the primordial ultimate source of animated propulsion for living creatures, all the way up to, Doge. I think that they pretty much have gotten the hang of manipulating people's attention, consciousness, and intellects in order to be able to clear the decks for them to be able to exploit the masses to the nth degree. I would say that they've done a pretty good job of it. And for us to think that we could possibly ever change the trajectory of the human race and allow people to actually claim their birthright instead of be compromised to the point where they live in a world full of so many falsehoods that it's really more or less something along the lines of a fairy tale, and without any grasp of the objective truth, that they couldn't possibly be held accountable for their choices, because there's no real choice at all. Where you're choosing between lies, it's not a real choice. In the absence of choice, there's no free will. In the absence of free will, there is no human being. Free will is not, that and opposable thumbs are the only two things that define human beings. So, and if that's as simple as I can make it, as to why I'm no longer partisan. I'm not talking about hate groups or anything like that. There's plenty of that stuff around. But, if you dig real deep, and really by real deep, when it comes to human beings in today's day and, the current nature of the human being, we're not talking about all that too deep. We're talking about the fact that people really kind of want the same stuff by and large. If you got down to the essentials, people want a better life for themselves and for their loved ones, and people, want to succeed. People want to have a lot of friends. People want to be accepted for who they are. People want to actualize. People want to feel like they belong. People want tasty jams. People want to laugh. And people have been fooled to think that they want a lot of material goods to provide some sort of security for themselves. But that's, above and beyond health, really, what do people actually really need? At the end of the day, when we all kick the bucket, none of the toys come with us to wherever. If there is some other place that we go to after this, the Maseratis, the luxury homes, the giant bank account, offshore secret bank accounts, the golden parachutes, the golden drama, none of that comes with us. The basics that we might, if we take anything with us, would include, the nature of what we've become in this life. What if this life turns out to be just a test? We don't know. What if it's just a test, testing our mettle? M-E... I don't know how it's spelled, metal. I mean the nature of the quality of our, whatever the stuff, the good, metal. Not heavy metal, not meddling in others' affairs. The other metal. Our constitutional makeup. And not Constitution as in U.S. Constitution. Let's get on with it, shall we? Top 10 worst stuff. Things that aren't pizza. But before, one other thing, a lot of people are like sending me tartly worded messages claiming that the top 10 worst stuff lists themselves are ad hoc improvs that I just pull out of my ass on the fly while I'm doing these lists. Number one, I do have a big ass, and there are lots of things that could probably be pulled out of it. But one thing's for sure, I'm not pulling top 10 lists out of my ass. I mean, I'm able to think on my feet, but that's pretty ridiculous, okay? These top 10 lists are put together by teams of experts, former board of adjudicators for the Drama Desk Awards, who gather together along with me outside of the Corn Palace in South Dakota and take copious amounts of adrenochrome mixed with barbiturates, where we come up with these lists together. It's totally on the level and stuff. But before we get on to the nitty gritty, leave us to take care of business with the commercial underwriters of the top 10 worst of lists. Some of the from the makers of the War on Terror, brought to us by the neocons in the early 2000s, subsequent to the 9/11 attacks. What? It's War on Error, a series of wars brought to you by the U.S. government that never had any real reason to be fought. From the Gulf of Tonkin that never happened, all the way to cause the Vietnam War, all the way to the the Iraq war invasion that had never needed to really happen, to the Afghani war that was really just a smokescreen to, co-opt the Taliban's poppy fields to enhance the bottom line profitability of the CIA drug trade, all the way to the Iran war, which God knows what the hell they're doing that for. But my intuition tells me that the gas prices immediately prior to the Iran war had been low, the lowest they'd been since the Great Recession in 2008. And I think that they were so low for so long that it almost countermanded what could very well probably have been lies we were hearing from the administration about the health and robust nature of the American economy. I think we were in advance of the Iran war in a much bigger recession than they were letting on, and they were probably covering it up. And then they realized, like, well, these gas prices have been so low, we need to do something. And they want to create economic havoc and despair, either so they'll be able to put together sweatshops in the United States. Remember, they're looking to bring back those manufacturing jobs and reshore, is that what the word is? Where they bring them all back to the United States. But you know what? If in order to be competitive with the stuff that's being made for people working for pennies in slave camps here in the United States, you'd have to pay like people 15 cents an hour. Well, if they can create economic despair in the United States low enough, they can bring all the jobs they want back here, and then they get rid of the EPA, which they're doing, and they get rid of the environment, the work safety in the workplace, which they'll get to any minute now, and create hardships and poor working conditions, and they'll get rid of healthcare and all that stuff, and slowly turning the America back into the America that it was in the early stages of the American Revolution, where we were having shirtwaist factories where 127 people were locked in to sweatshops in New York that wound up getting burned to death because they couldn't escape from the sweatshops when they caught on fire. Does that make sense? What am I doing? Oh, right, yeah. So it's War on Error. The whole Iran war is just to cover up the, they artificially boost up the gas prices and have a smokescreen to be able to justify the rise in gas costs, to deter us from realizing that the country is already in a gigantic, massive recession that we will probably never pull out of. I mean, they did really want to. Everybody voted to bring back all those jobs back from, Pacific Rim countries and stuff like that. You get what you wanted. Sweatshops in America, baby. All right, so next RFK Jr. version of Dune, where he conquers the sandworm by letting it feast on his toxic brain. RF Jr. Dune. RFK Jr. Dune. RF Dune. Coming soon to a multiplex near you. A tale of romanticizing the way things were back in the 1870s. It's Merch Story, a 90-minute infomercial disguised as a movie designed to turn your kids into empty-headed victims/targets for mass marketing media campaigns designed to sell them a big pile of meaningless and disposable swag. We take all the best of characters/toys from previous meaningless disposable crap and fake movie infomercials disguised as movies to zap all the individuality and independent thought out of your kids for good. It's Merch Story. Coming soon to Indoctrination Multiplex near you. All right, so there we go. Our sponsors for today. Wow, what a great, wonderful thing it is to have such illustrious sponsors. And now we move on to the business at hand. It's top 10 worst things that aren't pizza. Number 10. What? Number 10, the movie career of Carmen Electra. Now, somebody please explain to me what it is that Carmen Electra does that she would get hired for so many things. While we're at it, are there any movies anymore that Emily Blunt doesn't appear in? Oh, what? Emily Blunt? Since when did that dead-eyed, talentless, nobody hack actress all of a sudden become the most popular actress in Hollywood? It's not even just most popular. It's like every movie is Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt has done like 20 movies in the last month. Starring Emily Blunt. Really? Emily Blunt in a detective story without equal. Emily Blunt in the new latest Disney produced Star Wars derivative drivel. Jesus Christ. But the same, to a lesser extent, you can say the same thing about Carmen Electra. The hell is that? I mean, absolutely talentless nobody. She's not really, like all that attractive or anything. Like, I know I'm not supposed to talk about people's looks, even though everything in society is based on what you look like. Still, none of that actually, in terms of actions, has changed. The only thing that's changed is the restrictions that we have on how we talk about people's looks. People still judge books by their cover in this society every day. You imagine me when I walk into something to sort of, dicker about prices for a used car. And you see this big waddling maniac with, like eyes going in 3 different directions and hair that looks like this. Going into a used car, say, look, I know you're asking for $12,500 on this particular 1978 Eldorado. However, I would like to offer $12,400 cash. I'm sorry, sir. We've just raised the price to $1,300,000. $1,300,000. Fascinating. Books by their cover. Carmen Electra. Who the hell? I hate to say it, but, is there something? It must be something about her throat. Yes. Carmen Electra's throat. The movie career of Carmen Electra's throat. Number 10. Number 9 of the top 10 worst things that aren't pizza. A tribute to the Iran-Contra affair on ice. Pablo Escobar, played by Brian Boitano. Manuel Noriega, played by Scott Hamilton. Manuel Noriega, who got, when they swooped in, a la Venezuela style Maduro kidnapping. They did a whole war thing in Panama to swoop up Manuel Noriega as the Iran-Contra thing was just starting to get interesting. And plucked him, if you will, from his office in Panama, brought him back to the United States, put him in a prison somewhere down, some hellhole down in, by Miami way, and isolated him forever. Never allowed to give interviews, never allowed to speak to anybody, and just isolated him in some alleged prison, which is probably like some really plush underground bunker condo / luxury hotel that and was never heard from again. It's just one of the many questionable things that people just completely ignore. You're ignoring. Number 8, top 10 of the top 10 worst things that aren't pizza. A scale model painting of the Sistine Chapel painted on Sean Hannity's ass with different colored splashes of ranch dressing. Different colored ranch dressing. Now, I could see how that would be. First of all, the involvement of Sean Hannity's ass makes me question whether or not this line item on this list could be taken seriously. However, we're talking about things that aren't pizza, and ranch dressing has become such a popular condiment for the ingestion of pizza over the last decade or so that, it's hard to separate the idea. This is supposed to be things that aren't pizza, and yet here we go, talking about frickin' ranch dressing and Sean Hannity's ass. I mean, it's something's gone loopy here. I want to squeeze the bell. Can I squeeze the bell? I'm going to squeeze the bell. Here it comes. Oh, that was a good one. All right, number 7 of the top 10 worst things that are pizza. Fresca. How'd you like a nice, cool, refreshing Fresca? How you doing? The time here is 7:28 in the morning. Time to wake up and get on to the rat race, ladies and gentlemen. Why not start your day off with a nice, cool, refreshing Fresca? Ride the flavor wave. Number 6 of the top 10 worst things on our pizza. Barbecued human ass meat. Now, okay, I know that you're thinking, you perfect. How dare you defile my sensibilities with something that sort of gruff and in poor tastes. But I wasn't the first person. Barbecued human ass meat is actually something I've used in a lot of different contexts. Here I come. Coming to... Can't believe you do that while you're watching a video. You're the one to think that I'm the sick one. I'm the sickie. I see you. There's this show out there that I saw, I can't remember when, it's probably late 90s or something like that, called Kid Notorious, about Robert Evans. I don't know if you don't know who Robert Evans is. Who are you kidding? Robert Evans was this movie producer back in, rose to fame back in the 70s as the head of Paramount, and he greenlit a bunch of movies that just were awesome, that are iconic in movie circles. Rosemary's Baby, Godfather, Stuart Saves His Family, Ski School, Hot Dog the Movie, Dude, Where's My Car? No, I'm just kidding. But no, he did Chinatown and, all those mid-70s Paramount movies that are considered to be classics. And he had the really, really messed up, like the ultimate of the Hollywood schmooze artists type of guy. And he wrote a funny book, and the kid stays in the picture, and they made a documentary about it and stuff like that. But they did it for some ungodly reason in the 90s, 20 years past this guy's shelf life, they did a cartoon about his dramatized adventures in Hollywood. And it's absolutely insane. And there's this part where him and his butler get stranded in the desert, and he has to eat part of his butler's ass to survive. And he talks, he's roasting it, he's going like, barbecued human ass meat. And this is, I mean, it's just like was so nutty that it stuck with me. And so, don't, if you think that this is in poor taste, don't blame me. Go find the guys who did, blame Robert Evans, whatever. Because he actually voiced himself in the cartoon. So he probably had some input as to what the content was going to be. Number 5 of the top 10 things that aren't pizza, recovered memories. Now, I think that there's a lot of things that people like are in denial of. The number one thing that I am sort of fired up about is when people found out that their parents lied to them about Santa Claus. Now, I use Santa Claus as the, sort of like a catch-all for Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, George Washington and the cherry tree. When they find out that the cherry tree story where George Washington says, I cannot tell, I chopped down the cherry tree, that story itself is a lie because it never happened. And of course, Santa Claus, or parents tell their kids there's a Santa Claus and he's a sweet, lovable, puffy guy who just so happens to have a whole a gaggle of elfin slaves that they use within that story to help legitimize slavery and exploitation of workers and etc. But when kids find out that their parents lied to them about all that stuff, that transitional point in their lives, I think, is when they become dead inside. I think that one particular thing creates so much anxiety and pain and a hurt deep inside that I think is one of the main causes why so many people are a-holes in the United States. And so hateful, it's like they've got this crushed spirit that happened when they found out that their parents, the people who they relied on for everything, the most nurturing, closest relationship they will ever have to any other human beings in this life, was shattered in order to be able to prop up some goon that's tarted up in order to be able to push merchandise. I mean, and I don't, where it ties into recover memories is, I don't think anybody remembers exactly when that happened. I think that's a block. The people have a mental block on that stuff to try to block out the hurt and the pain and how it changed everything for them. From that point forward, when we find that out, then we find out that we've been sold out by our parents for a bunch of merch peddlers, that we're never the same. And it makes us all into damaged goods, and we never recover. And that's why we block it out. Nobody can remember when they found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. Nobody remembers that. It's because we all have this shared experience of being crushed by the fact that we found out that our parents were lying to us. I mean, what could possibly possess people to want to hurt their children like that? And it's about time that we slammed on the brakes and stopped it immediately. It's not funny. It's not fun. It's not the celebratory stuff. It's just something that they can easily sell for decorations and for Christmas specials and movies about Christmas and all this stuff that keeps perpetuating the materialism that it's the centralized lie around which capitalism is propped up with. Lying to your kids is, it's not on the, there's absolutely nothing in the frickin' 10 Commandments. Honor thy father and mother. What about father and mother honoring their kids? By being honest with your kids. Why isn't that a frickin' commandment? I'll tell you why. Because the people who wrote the frickin' commandments are the same people who are in charge of the frickin' Madison Avenue merchandise monsters. Materialism monsters. Which is better? Materialism monsters or merchandise monsters? Go ahead and leave your opinion in the comments. Thanks very much. Number 4, the top 10 worst things that aren't pizza. Radio City Hall Rockettes musical tribute to the third trimester fetus. Heaven knows third trimester fetus grows. I assume that most of you people haven't seen that one, but it's spectacular. I love it in the third act. They bust out the placenta. The dancing placenta. Oh, that number. Whew. Unforgettable. Number 3, the top 10 the worst things that are pizza. Itchy pubic hair stubble of the none too recently shaved mound of Diane Sawyer. Diane Sawyer. Hi, I'm Diane Sawyer. How you doing? How you doing, everybody in America? Good morning, America. With Diane Sawyer. I will hunt down your children and eat them. Diane Sawyer. Let me tell you something about Diane Sawyer. This is just a whole, just exemplifying the trend of people. You had Cokie Roberts, right? Cokie Roberts, mostly known, I guess, for public radio and maybe public TV. I don't know. Maybe she appeared as some sort of thing on network television, probably for a while, but a pretty well-known journalist, was the daughter of Hale Boggs, who was on the Warren Commission, who was a Dixiecrat and a real lying pig, okay, in my opinion, who also was starting to get, I think, a little bit antsy and started to talk a little bit more about the Warren Commission, and then turned up dead in a mysterious plane crash that was never found. That's how they do it. That's how they get you. I see you. No, but I'm trying to be serious here, folks. And Diane Sawyer is another one in that mold. I mean, they got William F. Buckley goes up against Gore Vidal on the 1968 presidential debates on ABC as they're covering their coverage of the national political conventions, and William F. Buckley in the penultimate debate, the debate right before the final debate, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term penultimate. The argument got a little heated, and again, this was a debate at a time when people actually knew what debates were and how to recognize, winners and losers and the significance of winning an intellectual argument rather than just getting the upper hand on somebody with gotcha journalism because, the editors and producers of all the segments that you do are hardcore right-wing operatives that are looking to just try and advance the agenda of the ruling elite and kick the working class to the curb. And, before that, and they had, 1968 people were able to follow along with what a debate really meant because they actually had, you know, in some cases, a voracious appetite for information as opposed to us. We're just kind of like, when's the next episode of what's it like to be a millionaire? When's the next episode of Cops? And people like that, actually said they're watching it, and they're going back and forth, and then Gore Vidal pops the the crypto-Nazi comic, crypto-fascist or something like that. And William F. Buckley proceeds to immediately lose it. I mean, he starts, in his like inimitable, condescending tone and voice and supercilious nature that he would, it was unable to exclude from his conversations with every living person on the planet. Turns to him and goes, don't you call me a crypto-fascist, you queer. I'll blouse you from head to toe and you'll stay bloused. I mean, that's I'm paraphrasing, but he did call him a queer. On national television at a time in 1968 when gay sex was illegal in, I think, every state of the union except for Illinois. Illinois was the first state to legalize gay sex. And here is William F. Buckley outing Gore Vidal as being gay on national television, basically ruining his life. So Gore Vidal has to run with his tail between his legs to the Amalfi Coast or someplace like that and become an expatriate, basically. And then William F. Buckley is given a job and became on firing line, was given his own weekly television show for him to berate and humiliate lefties on an ongoing basis on national television in the United States. So William F. Buckley loses the debate, which people saw. I mean, people, again, they knew what it was to actually debate somebody. And when you lose your cool and you start calling the other person names and you start threatening to beat his ass, that you lost the debate. Okay? But William F. Buckley loses the debate, and the powers that be reward him with a gigantic TV series. Became the longest running TV series with a single host in history up until that point. And Gore Vidal gets chased out of the country because, I'm gathering that the death threats were relentless at that point in time. A lot of people were, seen to be effete in cultural mainstream. Even Liberace was thought to be like the world's most eligible bachelor back in those days, and people just didn't, it was weird. It was a closeted society, but they learned to live within that closeted society with a suspension of disbelief, I guess. But William F. Buckley cleared that up right quick, and probably ruined Gore Vidal's life, or at least diminish it and his productive capacity and the future of his career. And Gore Vidal, did still, appeared on a lot of TV shows from time to time, but and wrote books, but they weren't the same. They were never, Myra Breckinridge was his famous one. It was completely nutty, wild lashing out at societal conventions. And then he, after that, he was writing books like about American history and stuff, like Lincoln, and I don't know. It was weird. It was, but Diane Sawyer was an acolyte of Richard Nixon during the days of the Watergate collapse and afterwards, where she wound up writing his autobiography. So they were super tight. So, and then Diane Sawyer gets rewarded afterwards with a big, giant, illustrious career in mainstream media. And literally, I don't think anybody knows anything about her history of being buddy and trying to cover up for Richard Nixon's disgrace and the crimes and all that kind of thing, and her role in all of that. So anyway, yes, I've made a crude joke at the expense of Diane Sawyer, but not nearly as crude of a joke that she made at our expense throughout the course of her life. So, back at you. Number 2, the top 10 words I love the sound of Martha Stewart making anal seepage flavored hamburger helper. What? How does Martha Stewart make chicken soup? Wait, how's it go? She throws out the chicken and the vegetables and keeps the stock. I think that's I don't know. Inside trader information from Martha Stewart. I just never understood Martha Stewart, to be honest with you. I mean, talk about your white bread nobody. A talentless hack who makes everything into something that's so innocuous and bland and whitewashed. I mean, she's like people, suburbanites feed off of that stuff, and they're influenced by it to the point where they actually become dehumanized and quite honestly, worthless. And everybody who was a big Martha Stewart fan or supported Martha Stewart and shows, watching the shows or buying the stuff and everything like that are disposable. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. If you didn't want to be disposable, why didn't you get something that's a little more genuine and authentic nature than Martha frickin' Stewart? I know we've got a tiny little making something we're going to make. It's called we're going to build a statue out of mayonnaise today. And the Martha Stewart show. John, come on, see what togetherness can bring for all of us white bread suburbanite nobodies. And sitting around watching The View with these convoluted sellout opinions that are nothing more than pronunciations and commandments from our dear overlord who's telling us to conform or die, conform or die, conform or die. And number 1 of the top 10 worst of things that aren't pizza. Pain is the cleanser? Pain is the cleanser. That's it. That's all the time we got for the top 10 worst stuff list. Oh my God, what a fun time it's been for each and every one of us. I trust that you've had just as much fun as I have in today's episode. I want to remind everybody before we go that everything I've said here is opinions, not of my own, but necessarily but bestowed upon me by some unknown, all-seeing power floating as like an ether throughout the universe, reaching out to communicate with us. Reaching out and reaching in all at once, informing us, empowering us with messages and what's the thing where they have with the thing with the like it reassuring something. I'm still missing a word. Reassuring is part of it. Reassuring confirmations that there's a benign empowering force for good in nature that seeks the best for all of us and isn't out there trying to torture us and compromise us by the works of evildoers and the usurpations of our malevolent monstrous overlords looking to try and turn us all into victims. I'm just channeling these things. Quit blaming the messenger, you freaking sellout. I'm reminding you also to smash the freaking like button. Smash that like button. Ooh, smash it. Ooh. So many of you are forgetting to smash the like button. It's repellent to my higher level sensibilities. Hippo, hurricane, holler. Anyway, show's been so great, so rewarding for me to be able to live long enough to be able to bring you these wonderful messages and perspectives. Thank you for joining in, and just sort of, hey, you know what? Let's try and get through this mess together, huh? What do you say? Oh, no, one more thing.